They don't teach this in school, but Africa was a major battlefield in World War II. While most people think of Europe and the Pacific, Africa saw brutal tank battles, secret resistance movements, and colonial struggles that shaped the war's outcome. So why is this part of history so ignored? And what really happened to Africa during World War II? Let's uncover the truth. World War II wasn't just about Europe and the Pacific. From the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of Ethiopia, the African continent was a key player in the global conflict. Millions of African soldiers fought in the war, yet their stories are rarely told. Entire nations were caught between warring empires, and some even saw the war as an opportunity to break free from colonial rule. This is the untold story of Africa's role in World War II, how it shaped the war and how the war shaped Africa. So, why don't we hear about Africa in World War II? The simple answer: colonialism. At the time, most African nations were under European control. The battles fought there were seen as extensions of European conflicts rather than African struggles. And after the war, European powers wanted to downplay Africa's contribution to maintain control. But the truth is, Africa played a crucial role in the war, and ignoring it leaves out a massive part of history. When Germany and Italy turned their eyes toward North Africa, they saw an opportunity to strike at British and French colonies. The North African campaign was one of the most intense and unpredictable parts of the war. Here's what went down. Italy's invasion of Egypt in 1940. Italy, under Mussolini, attacked Egypt from its colony in Libya, trying to seize control of the Suez Canal. It was a disaster. The British, with help from Indian and African troops, pushed them back hard. The arrival of the Desert Fox in 1941. Enter Erwin Rommel, Hitler's top general. The German Afrika Korps stormed into Libya, launching a brutal back-and-forth war with the British. This led to legendary battles like Tobruk and El Alamein. El Alamein in 1942, the turning point. British General Montgomery finally stopped Rommel's advance. Without Africa, the Allies wouldn't have had a launching point for the invasion of Italy. African troops played a significant role in these battles. Thousands of soldiers from French, British, and local African forces fought in the harsh desert conditions, supplying, supporting, and engaging in combat. The war's impact on North Africa: while the fighting was mainly between Axis and Allied forces, local North African populations were deeply affected, many were displaced, and entire towns were destroyed. The war also sowed the seeds of anti-colonial resistance. Most people think World War II started turning in favor of the Allies in 1942 or 1943, but the first Allied victory actually happened in Ethiopia years earlier. Italy's invasion, 1935 to 1936. Mussolini invaded Ethiopia using brutal tactics, including poison gas. Ethiopia, led by Emperor Haile Selassie, fought hard but was overpowered. British and Ethiopian resistance, 1941. With the help of British, South African, and local Ethiopian forces, Selassie launched a counterattack. By May 1941, Ethiopia was liberated, the first Allied victory of the war. The Ethiopian campaign was a major morale boost for the Allies and for Africa as a whole. It showed that colonial powers could be defeated, inspiring future independence movements across the continent. The forgotten soldiers millions of Africans fought in World War II. African soldiers weren't just fighting in Africa. Millions were shipped off to fight in Europe and Asia, yet their contributions are barely recognized today. West African and East African troops, over 1 million soldiers from British colonies fought for the Allies. Many were used in brutal campaigns in Burma and India against Japan. The Free French African Army. Many African soldiers fought under Charles de Gaulle's Free French forces. They played a key role in liberating France from Nazi control. Forced conscription. Many African soldiers were drafted, given little training, and thrown into some of the war's deadliest battles. The forgotten veterans. After the war, many African soldiers returned home expecting recognition and rights. Instead, they faced discrimination, poverty, and in many cases, were denied pensions promised by colonial governments. How the war changed Africa forever. World War II wasn't just a battle between nations. For many Africans, it was a wake-up call. They fought and died for European powers, only to return home to the same colonial oppression. This fueled independence movements across the continent, the end of empires. The war weakened Britain and France. African nations saw their chance to break free. By the 1960s, most African countries had won independence, the birth of nationalism. African soldiers returned home with new ideas of freedom and resistance. The war planted the seeds for revolutions and decolonization. The economic shift. The war disrupted colonial economies. African nations, once suppliers of raw materials for European industries, began looking toward self-sufficiency and economic independence. The role of African leaders. Many future African independence leaders, including Kwame Nkrumah and Jomo Kenyatta, were inspired by the war and the global struggle against oppression. They used the post-war momentum to push for liberation. Africa's role in World War II was huge, but history has buried it under the weight of colonial narratives. The war shaped the future of Africa, and Africa, in turn, shaped the outcome of the war. From the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of Ethiopia, African soldiers and nations played a vital role in the global conflict. It's time their stories were told. Subscribe for more hidden history and untold stories of the past.